and call this meeting to order. This is the October 23rd, 2023 Goffstown Select Board meeting. First up, could you all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up, we have the acceptance and correction of minutes from the 10-16 public and non-public meeting.
I'll make a motion to do the 10, 16, 23 public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Peter. Any questions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain? And for announcements this evening, we have the 10-year plan hearing schedule, the Governor's Advisory Commission on Intermodal Transportation, which is made up of the 5 executive counselors and the Commission of the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, schedule public hearings throughout the state in September and October. This Wednesday, October 25th, there will be a hearing in Goffstown. The hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, October 25th at 7 p.m. in the second floor meeting room of Goffstown Fire Station 18 at 18 Church Street. The purpose of these hearings is to receive public comment and testimony on transportation projects and priorities included in the draft 2025 to 2034 10-year transportation improvement plan, as recommended by the NHDOT to the Governor's Advisory Commission on Intermodal Transportation. We also have another announcement. The New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services has announced the annual fall drawdown of lakes and ponds controlled by dams owned by NHDES. Glen Lake on the Piscataqua River in Goffstown will be drawn down on Saturday, October 28th. Glen Lake will be drawn down 1.5 feet from the full level. The depth of drawdown listed above is not from the current level, it is from the normal full pond level. Lake drawdowns are conducted each fall to reduce winter ice damage to shoreline properties and to reduce spring flooding. Drawdowns also give property owners the opportunity to conduct any necessary repairs to their waterfront property, provided they first secure a permit from the NHDES Wetlands Bureau at 603-271-2147.
Can you also mention Halloween?
Absolutely. So Halloween is next Tuesday, and Goffstown is doing trick-or-treating from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Any other announcements? Okay, Derek, would you like to start on the town administrator? Oh, great.
Sure, if you go to tab 5A of your packet, you have your committee meeting schedule. On Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., the Historic District Commission will be at Grassmere Town Hall.
Yep.
On Wednesday at 7 p.m., Conservation Commission will be in this room.
Yep, I have that.
On Thursday at 7 p.m., the Planning Board will be in this room. I believe, Collis,
Oh,
you
yeah,
said-
I cannot do that, by the way, I'll be out of town.
I'll do it.
Okay.
It's an easy lift, there's only 2 items and one is a continuance, so.
And we have the packet next door, so we can just
Yeah.
make sure to grab that tonight.
Thank you, Jim.
Next week, if necessary, to finalize the 2024 budget, the Select Board, we set that as a tentative date. Again, Halloween on Tuesday the 31st from 6 to 8 for trick-or-treat time. Wednesday of next week at 6 p.m., Economic Development Council in this room. 6:30 p.m., the library trustees will have a working meeting at the 3rd floor of the library.
I'll be there.
On Thursday of next week at 6 p.m., the Budget Committee is meeting at the Goffstown High School Media Center for school deliberations.
I'll be there.
Thank you. At your next page, you have your consent agenda. There's an employee status report for a new hire of a police dispatcher.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Peter, seconded by Collis. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
Thank you. At your next page, you have a budget transfer request. This is a quarterly benefit cash out for those employees that get health insurance from a spouse or from another source. And you have all the detail attached from the finance office.
Motion to approve the budget transfer request for the reallocation of $43,166.74 from insurance benefits to the various wage lines as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstained?
At tab 5D, the four-year lease between the town and New Hampshire Department of Transportation for antenna and transmitters on the town's tower is coming due. What you have in your packet is you have a sample lease which we have used. We did make some changes under on page 5 of 7 under the hold harmless language, which was suggested by Primex, as well as the insurance requirement. DOT is requesting to increase the number of communication antenna from 3 to 4 and the number of transmitter receiver units from 2 to 3. The question we have for the board on this is historically we've only done a 2% increase. Ever since I went all the way back to 2012, we've done a 2% increase every year. Does the board want to increase that any further beyond that, or is that sufficient? And what I've also provided in your packet is the cost of electricity, the propane for the generator, and facility repairs that's budgeted each year by the police department.
How much have the expenses gone up?
In that 12 years, we haven't always broken them out by that, but right now we're up to 43 in the police chief's 2024 budget. He's budgeted $4,300 for that location.
Okay, I was kind of looking at in relation to what the DOT was paying. If our expenses increased, maybe their percentage should have increased. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, they're going from 3 to 4 antennas. I would expect it would increase. I would hope we'd increase it.
Yeah,
I mean,
Well, they're only asking for 3, right? Antennas?
we'll ask for,
They have 3 now, they're asking
Okay,
for
for
4,
okay.
and then the transmitter receivers are going from 2 to 3.
2 or 3, okay.
so a 33% increase in the number of antennas. Hardly seems to me like that's enough of an increase, but.
So, let's make a motion. I'll make the motion to increase it to 4%.
Second.
Derek, sorry, we just have a question before. Are the utilities broken out per antenna, or is that a?
They're not,
cumulative cost?
we only break out the cost of electricity
Okay.
simply for the towers that the town owns up there.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
my concern is we're adding more towers, more radio interference, and more transmitters and receivers up there. How is that going to work with our new system just put up there?
There's language in the contract that deals with that to prevent any, if there is any interference, that we could take action against
Okay,
any of the
as
tenants.
long as we're covered, that's
Yep.
all I care about.
Including removing their antennas, the antennas that.
Yeah, we're working with them to correct the issue.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Any other questions? Motion by Peter, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I just ask, I'm sorry, I should ask a clarifying question. Right now, it's 2% between years. Do you want a 4% increase in the first year, or do you want 4% each of the?
I would-
Cumulative.
I would
Yeah.
still look like close.
I'd like to go cumulative, yeah, 4% each year.
I would,
I don't know, I would think the charge would be 4%, not increase it by 4%.
Okay, so right now, it's proposed, if it was a 2%, it'd be $2,745, which we can put 4% in that first year and then 2%
So-
thereafter.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Get a little of a bump there that first year. And then go
also
good.
reflective of utilities, I
Yeah.
would say. We see a huge spike, we should adjust appropriately. Do you need a motion clarified, Derek? or does
No,
that cover it?
I understand the intent of the board.
All right, great. You got 2 minutes.
At tab 5E, the plotter that is used by DPW recently failed, and it would cost approximately $13,000 to replace. The IT had done research, and the state of New Hampshire does have a contract with Canon, and we would be seeking to go, and rather than purchase outright, we'd prefer to move this to a lease agreement. So the request is to authorize a lease agreement with the state contract, 60 monthly payments of $199.69.
Question.
Go ahead.
How's that work with it if we were to run into a default?
They do have a municipal non-appropriation clause, so if we did get to the point where we did not have appropriation enough to cover this, then we could get out of the lease, so that it does have that language in the lease.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make the motion to authorize the Information Systems Director to enter into a 60-month lease agreement as proposed for the large format multi-function plotter at DPW.
Second.
Motion by Peter, seconded by Collis. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain? All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak this evening? Did you already sign in, Edie?
I did.
Great.
Time it.
Thank you. So if you could just state your name and address for the record, please. And just a reminder, there's a 3-minute time limit for public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I didn't practice, but my name's Andrew Cataract, Goffstown, New Hampshire, 22 West Union Street. I'm here to talk about the Hadley Falls Dam removal and a group of citizen stakeholders who have gotten together. So back in April, as you know, the State of New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, who owns the dam, Hadley Falls Dam, in the village of Goffstown, notified the town of the intent to remove the dam. I represent a group of stakeholders, and I put on this memo the Citizens Committee that are seeking ways to save the Hadley Falls Dam and the mill pond in the village of Goffstown from removal, or if removal is inevitable, to find ways for the best outcome for the village of Goffstown. I am an abutter, so I live on the river, so just to be clear, but the group represents concerned citizens, businesses on Main Street, and abutters. And as you know, there is no waterfront association for the village of Goffstown, whereas Nemaski Lake has an association, Glen Lake has an association. So we have to be the association. We have to advocate for anything that's going to happen at the Hadley Falls Dam here in the village. And so I represent this group of stakeholders. We're here to strongly encourage that the Select Board take affirmative steps to work with the residents, businesses, New Hampshire DES to create a win-win for all stakeholders as it relates to the removal of the Hadley Falls Dam in the village of Goffstown. And then we have 3 action items that we'd like to present. 1, actively work with DES to provide quarterly presentation status updates to the Select Board on the status of the removal of the Hadley Falls dams. There's a lot of unknowns, and I don't think the Select Board knows, we don't know, I'm on some other committees, we don't know, they don't know, and so I think having them in here quarterly to let you know and to let the citizens know what's happening would be great. Some of the questions are feasibility study, where is that at? What are they looking for outcomes in the feasibility study? What's the timeline of that? We also have some additional suggestions that you could ask the DES with regards to, can keeping the dam be one of the options in the feasibility study? Probably not, but if you don't ask, you don't know the answer. What's going to happen to the mill pond? Is there any consideration for the mill pond? How will changes to the river impact the bridge abutments? When the dam's gone, the water's going to go faster through there, and that could undercut the bridge abutments, it could undercut property owners' property. How will that be impacted? And then river restoration. At some point, there's going to be river restoration, and will we have a seat at the table? Will we help make those decisions as to what's happening and who's going to pay for it? I think we need to ask those questions now so that we can work towards a solution. Second, we encourage the Select Board to create a Hadley Falls Piscataquag River Waterways Ad Hoc Committee. This was suggested by DES, and I think it needs to happen sooner rather than later so that we can be an active participant and move this forward and not wait for decisions to be made. And then finally, recommend that the Select Board begin planning for the future for what that waterfront's going to look like. We don't know who's going to pay for any of these improvements to the waterfront once the dam's removed, if that's the direction it goes. And I would recommend that you put forward a warrant article in the March ballot This would provide the chance, the Goffstown community a chance to voice and understand what is happening. Have
We're out
a
of
seat
time.
at the table.
You're out of time.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
All right.
you so much.
Thank you very much.
We'll take
Andy.
a look at this, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at public comment this evening?
Good evening, Rod Stark. I live in town, and I didn't sign up, but I knew that this issue was gonna come up tonight, and it's a very important issue for the town of Goffstown. So, I think Andrew has done a great job heading up this committee, this organization, whatever it is, and, but I wholeheartedly agree that the town needs to set forth or set up a committee, an official town committee that has some credibility and authority to deal with these issues. Because there's a lot of issues involved here, and quite frankly, I'm not very happy with what DES is doing in town, having lived here all my life and always had that pond and that dam right where it is. It's never caused anybody any problems, and it still isn't. But unless they do it right, it will. So, that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you.
Ron.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. And next up, we have the Parks and Rec Director. Rick, you're up. We're at tab 4. We don't have.
You don't have any background information in your packet on this.
Have right here. 2 to 5.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Rick Wilhelmi, Director of Parks and Recreation, Goffstown. 13 wonderful years. I'm here tonight to talk about repurposing our 2012 F-350 pickup truck. What I gave you here is a document which has a bunch of different things that we do. But if you look at our department right now, 13 years, we basically have had 3 vehicles all the way through all 13 years. We increased to another full-time staff person. We're in our 2nd year of having that person on staff right now. If you look at all our tasks that we have to do in a course of the fall season, we're responsible for every athletic field in this town, except for the new turf field. So you got fall season, you got football, soccer, field hockey, spring season, you have baseball, softball, and lacrosse. We are the crew that goes around and does and performs all the tasks, lines all those baseball fields, drags all the baseball fields, mows them. As far as soccer fields and field hockey fields, we're still very heavily doing the Mountain View Middle School complex. So you got 2 soccer fields going on up there, a field hockey field going on up there. You have to line these fields for game days. You have to mow these fields for game days. We're responsible for putting down all the practice fields, lining all the fields for the field hockey program, Goffstown High School field hockey over at Lions. They practice over there. It's quite a lot. So what we found is that having this vehicle on hand, we retrofitted the back, took the seats out of the back of it, and now that's where we store all our paint jugs. We got 7, 8 jugs of 5-gallon paint jugs in there. And what our plan to do, let me stay with what I was here to talk about, basically. By using that truck, the efficiency level that we have is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So we have one of our full-time guys. He's the paint guy. So he can take that paint, he can go do his job, he can haul a mower with that trailer, with that truck and trailer. and he can get a job done over there. So he's killing two birds with one stone, he's mowing and he's painting. But the other crew is off doing their mowing, trimming, and everything else. It's amazing on what, it opened my eyes in seeing what we are able to do with this truck. The body of this, the dump body of the truck is rotted. And that was one of the big purposes. It's 12 years old, plus one of the big reasons to get a new truck was the dump body was rotted. But to repurpose this truck with a flatbed type of system, $5,500, we can have it manufactured by a local guy and have a nice flatbed for it. And then that way there, its purpose becomes a paint truck, and also we can haul for seeding, fertilizing, etc. You put all the fert and the seed in the back of the truck. It's more accessible, it's easy in and out, and we keep two crews going throughout the seasons. Another thing, from June to August, we have a lot of trash that we have to pick up throughout Roy Park, Barnard Park, all the different complexes, etc. That's a 4-hour job right there. So you tie a truck up for 4 hours just hauling trash. And in the meantime, you got other jobs that you can be doing. And as I keep saying, I mean, I hope everybody realizes we're the mowing and trimming and general grounds maintenance for every school. Mountain View Middle School, that's a big complex. Maple Ave is small. Glen Lake is a huge complex. There's a lot of stuff over there. The high school, Bartlett, weed whacker, and you're good over there. But the police department, fire department, town common, Church Street Park, the islands, the library, Glen Lake waterfront. With this other truck online, we will be able to get a lot of different projects done that we would like to get done. We experimented this summer. We used my truck we tried using my truck to haul the trailer and mowers around, but it's just beating it up. And Mike would go over and he'd put in a whole new little road all around Barnard Park. So you get all these nice projects done with these two vehicles. I totally get, you know, originally we said, okay, we're trading this truck in, we want to get a new truck. I get that. I do get that. But from the way I'm looking at this, and I hope you look at it, is I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense to keep this truck and repurpose it for other areas. I mean, what this has opened my eyes to, I'm going to come to you in probably 5 years and ask for another truck anyhow. I'll put that on the docket, and because the benefits it brings to this department, I definitely foresee doing that in the next 5 years. I'll put that on the docket, absolutely.
Good.
So you think you're gonna get 5 more years out of this truck that's already 12 years old?
Good drive for it, yeah. It's not going to be a mainline vehicle, you know what I mean? I mean, it's still going to be used, yes, absolutely. But if I had to rely on one vehicle and that 2012 was the one vehicle, no, I would not. That you absolutely need a reliable vehicle as your day in, day out vehicle.
When do you stop putting maintenance into it, spending money into it when the time comes?
When it doesn't make any sense to continue doing it, financially.
So Rick, it's a backup work truck, registered, roadworthy?
Oh, yeah, yes, yep. Well, we just have to replace it, we have to rip the bed off
Put
the
it-
back
yeah,
and
Right,
repurpose that.
get it.
Absolutely.
So Rick, just to summarize, let me make sure I'm hearing you right. So the truck that we voted to replace, the main issue with it was the rot in the back,
The bed.
correct? In the
Dump
bed.
body.
Okay, and if we take that off, it's still usable and in good condition today?
Yes,
Are you sure?
sure.
You made a face. That being said, did you budget for one gas and maintenance and all that for one vehicle?
For 24,
Yeah.
added a little in fuel.
Okay. So so you don't foresee this vehicle needing any other work or maintenance?
Well, of course it will need it, but I think the numbers that we have budgeted there, I think will be okay.
So then my next question was about the replacement schedule, but Peter asked that. So really, the main concern with this is time and efficiency for the staff.
And I did a little thing on my own too, so you figure if that truck got us 12 years, 65,000 miles, we just bought a 2023, 12 years, that's 2,035 that we're gonna probably look at getting another vehicle. And that's got an aluminum dump body, which it may go longer, I have no idea. 2018, we bought the F-150, 12 years, that's 2030. Here we are, 2024. So if you say no to this truck, I'm coming and saying next year or the year after, I'm gonna try and get another truck. But if we get 5 years out of it, that's 2028. So you're still in a decent time frame of trading vehicles in and out, and managing your department efficiently.
Rick, I hear what you're saying for the efficiency purposes, but looking at this list, a lot of it is the schools. Is that something we need to discuss, is how much time the schools are taking from your work?
You want to go there, that's your choice, but that's part of that's our job, that's what we've been contracted to do well before me, so.
I just want to bring up the same thing we did. The fire chief asked us for the same thing, if you remember, a few months ago. And the reason we said no to him was because they went to CIP and said the truck needed to be replaced. And that came to Budget Committee, said it needed to be replaced, came to us, needed to be replaced. And so we said no to him. I just want to be cautious that we say no to one and yes to another. Do I understand what Rick's talking about? Absolutely, it's efficient. But we're talking about a truck that's 12 years old, who maybe get 5 years out of it. If we do, we do, we don't, then we're stuck replacing another truck before it's due to be replaced. Would that be accurate? Say that truck dies tomorrow or dies,
Then I'm coming
Next
here and
year.
I'm putting in I'm gonna come and say we're gonna try in 2025 get a new truck. But if we can use it and get some good purpose out of it between that time, I'm sorry, maybe I'm ignorant, but I mean, that's a no-brainer in my mind. It's a no-brainer.
I don't see the downside, but I don't, makes sense to me. If it-
But to Peter's point, we've pushed back on expanding
Yeah,
the
but for a
fleet.
different reason. That was a process thing, I think. Right?
And our department, honestly, has been growing, obviously, over the 13. When I got here, we had a horse and buggy system. And we've come a heck of a long way and a lot more efficiency. And it shows. It absolutely does show. And then just as we increased our staff, you're gonna get more bang for your dollar out of it.
Any questions?
I look at it this way, the town's growing. When do we buy it, now or later? We're gonna take a used truck that we have now, that will probably get us 5 more years out of it, save some money for us. I know we said no to the fire chief, but everything he's mentioned tonight makes sense.
absolutely
Yeah.
makes sense.
And I think it's a prudent use of assets, I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
I know we may have said no before, but look at these on a case-by-case basis, and this one, I think I've heard a good argument
Well, certainly.
why we shouldn't retain this truck and put it to good use.
I did ask.
I'll support it.
I did ask for a report from Lee a few years ago to compare have we grown our fleet. You and I talked about that.
I remember.
If there's some way we can see if our fleet's growing without us knowing, if that makes sense. I'll make the motion that Parks and Rec gets to keep the truck.
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by Paul. What's my favorite
The
question?
one question I do have is, before we say yes to that truck, I understand you're saying the rust is in the dump and in that back area. I'd like to have our DPW fleet maintenance people take a look at it and see just how good or bad the cab is, make sure it'll get us another 5 years.
The maintenance boys have been looking at it and said, this makes a lot of sense.
Okay? That's fine, I'm all set.
Because I did that work too. So I wanted to ask if I'm stupid to go and ask for this, and he said no.
I just don't wanna get stuck with something we say yes to today and tomorrow doesn't pass state inspection.
The frame could be rotted, who knows, you know.
Yep,
The motion's on the floor.
yep.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick.
All right. Derek, do you want to keep going through the town administrator's report?
Yes, I believe we left off at tab 5F. This is a request from the Information Systems Director. We have one piece of software that is critical in our network safety and infrastructure. Our license is running up on it, and we've been provided two options. One would be to do a year-by-year lease that would increase over the years, and you see the numbers there for a 3-year total of $27,000. The other option is if we did a 3-year renewal, the cost would be reduced to $23,727. So the request is to move forward with a 3-year renewal. This is a software that we will have to use as long as we are going to have a network and computers in this town, because it provides a lot of the safety protocols and everything. So
Is there any chance that this pricing will decrease?
if we only do 1 year, that is,
I mean, if we lock in the 3 years at the reduced rate and the price of the software goes below that at some point.
I would be very surprised. We're seeing softwares, some of the software going up as much as 10% a year in some of them.
Year one is 2023. Is that,
I think that's because it's a December renewal.
so it's December to November?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, because I believe he said the renewal was somewhere around December, 15th, if I remember correctly.
So do you have $7,909 in that budget, in your
Yes,
budget?
he budgeted for this renewal, but they said you can continue to do year by year, and this is what we anticipate for increases. But to provide cost certainty to the vendor, they're willing to do a 3-year fixed lease amount.
Again, we also have the caveat of not funded.
For a municipal non-appropriation clause, yes, we will work with them to have that added to the lease.
I'll make a motion to move forward a 3-year lease renewal.
Second.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Mark. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
On your next page, you have a request from the Library Board of Trustees. They have made a recommendation to appoint Kathy Holt and Terry Curtis as full members on the Library Board of Trustees. They currently have 2 vacancies, and this would be until elections at the 2024 town meeting.
I'll make a
When was that done?
This was done at their last week.
Wednesday, yeah.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kathy Holt as a full member of the library trustee to serve until elections at the 2024 town meeting, March 12th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Collis. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
I make a motion to appoint Terry Curtis as a full member of the library trustee to serve until elections at the 2024 town meeting, March 12th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
At tab 5H, you have your annual rates from Health Trust seeking for renewal. We did preview this with you last week, that the rate adjustment for the calendar year '24 for health is 12.8% increase. If you flip to the very last page, right before tab 5I, you see kind of where our group-specific medical rate change history. This is a significant, where we are seeing a 12.8% increase. Last year we had a less than 1% increase, and the year before we had a negative 4%. This is mostly being driven by claims of the covered individuals as those have increased.
Do you need a motion on this?
I'd ask for a motion to accept the new rates. So you do have in your signature packet the rate packet.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion to accept the calendar year 2024 increase adjustment to
Primex.
Health Trust.
Yep.
Motion by Peter, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
At tab 5I, you have similar, you have our workers' compensation rate package from Primex. You also have immediately after that our unemployment rate package, and then you have our property and liability program renewal. The workers' comp is a increase of 8%. This is part of our their P3. We are limited on how much that can grow each year because we've signed a multi-year agreement with them. The unemployment has a 0% increase, and then the property and liability is a 7% increase. And similar to Health Trust, we'd be requesting the board's approval of those this evening.
Take a motion.
Was there a reason why there was a 7% increase on the property and liability program, or that just was the increase?
I think our history has to do with it. I can provide the board. We've had quite a few more claims made over the last couple of years. We've had a lot of lightning strikes. We've had a lot of power surges where we lost the HVAC here. We've also started to have claims for cyber incidents. As soon as if somebody ever clicks on a bad email or something, we have them come in and just look at it. We've never actually had an incident occur, but they do, and so that's a claim. So I can provide you all our claim history over the last few years.
It'd be good to look at that to see if there's anything we potentially could clean up.
Absolutely.
I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the Primex numbers that we saw this evening.
For property liability, workers' comp, and
Yep.
unemployment.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
And then at tab 5J, I emailed to you as well as put a copy in your packet of the proposed 10-year renewal agreement for the cable franchise. Just to kind of go over some of the highlights of this, the cable franchise fee would remain at 5% of revenue, which is maintained from the last agreement. There have been some changes in some of the auditing standards for-profit companies, so their revenues have actually reduced because of the way that they actually record them. And you do have in the second page, you have a history of the revenues over the years. This maintains also our senior discount side letter. The one big change is courtesy connections and monthly service to public buildings and schools. That has been pulled out of the contract due to a recent FCC ruling. The town would have the option of either being invoiced for those cable drops, or the value of those drops would be reduced from the quarterly franchise payments. There is the potential that the FCC could find that, overturn that and find that it's not a part of the franchise fee and to be reduced by that, but right now we need to reduce the value of those drops and connections from the franchise fee.
What is the value?
Basically what you would pay for a monthly basic subscription fee. You know, I think it runs around, you know, $30 a month. I can get the exact number for you, but we have quite a few buildings and schools that take advantage, you know, that take advantage of that, and we would continue that. So I'd recommend that the board would just reduce the cable franchise payment. Some notable items in this renewal agreement. This would provide the town with a third PEG channel in addition to government and school before May 1st, 2025, as well as one HD channel before 2026. There is capital funding of $25,000 that would go to the GTV revolving fund. This would be shown as a pass-through to current subscribers for total, and they would see approximately between 7 cents and 10 cents on their monthly bill. That would be the increase for that pass-through. And then there would be a one-time PEG grant of $15,000, and there's no pass-through on that amount.
And those funds would go,
Into the GTV revolving fund. That's what we've historically done with those capital grants, because it goes directly to PEG access.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll take a motion.
make a motion that we accept the contract with negotiated 10-year cable franchise agreement between the town and Comcast.
Second.
Motion by Peter, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain?
The final item in the town administrator's report is the 2023 tax rate, and I asked for Danielle to come up, and she's got a couple of handouts.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so before you have two draft tax rates. This information came in right at the very end of the day. I was working with DRA right until after 3 o'clock, actually. We have an example of what the draft tax rate would look like without any use of fund balance. And that gets you a rate of $18.86. Or if the town were to opt to use all available fund balance, which is $150,000 this year, that would be a rate of $18.80. So to give you a little background on how we got here and what we have for information this year, the MS 434, the revised revenues, we did have some significant changes. The meals and rooms increased by about $450,000. Motor vehicle increased by about $150,000 based on where it's tracking. Some increases to pilot agreements. Another large one was the interest on investments. Since the market has been going up, we increased that line by $250,000 over what was budgeted. So all in all, with increases and decreases across various revenue lines, you're looking at a total increase of $832,000 additional dollars in revenue. So that actually helped get the tax rate down. And then as far as the use of fund balance, as you know, the board has a fund balance policy. The minimum fund balance is 12%. Your target is 16%. Right now, according to DRA, you see on the last page of either handout, the fund balance that's available is only $7.2 million based on what was reported through the audit, as well as what was voted on at 2023 town meeting. So that's, if we were to bring it down to that 12% minimum, that's where we would see that $150,000 of fund balance used.
What's the current tax rate?
The current tax rate is $22, a little over 20. I know I still have it.
So the 2022 tax rate, again with a different value, was $26.31. But that was based on a total value of about 1.7 billion, and now we have a value of about 2.7 billion.
I did some calculations based on if the 150,000 in fund balance was used, it would save approximately $20 to $25 per household on their total bill.
Jim, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand this. The $150,000, is that's the question, what are we going to do with that, right? That's one of the questions.
It could be used for tax rate setting, it could be retained in order to get closer to your target balance of 16%.
Yeah,
Or it could be voted to be used at next town meeting for things such as capital reserve deposits or one-time projects or things you want to put into separate warrant articles at town meeting in '24.
and if we applied it to the tax rate, it would lower, did you say 25?
It would lower the tax rate by about 6 cents, which would have an impact on the total bill for the average household of maybe $20 if it's a $400,000 valued property, which is about the average single-family home.
Is this a blip in the unreserved fund balance? That we didn't increase it as much as normal?
So
Or it
this,
didn't maintain as much as normal?
this came back to, a few weeks back, we had a conversation about how the funds were recorded through the audit process and recorded by DRA. Historically, DRA was taking total amount billed and was assuming we received 100% collection on every bill we issued. And therefore, it was overinflating our fund balance as opposed to the GASB standards, which our auditors supported, which is deferring the amounts that are not collected, because it's not actually available in fund balance until it's been collected.
So that's why our
That's our
percentage
biggest change.
went down? Yeah, okay.
We're also impacted by that percentage at 12.28%, if you look on the zero. It's on the total amount of taxes that we need to collect for not only the town, but the school and the county. So as that amount goes up as well, your percentage is going to drop as well.
Yeah, that's correct. The amount that you see on the last page of the handout that says draft with no fund balance, it shows you that the general fund operating expenses are 58.7 million, and that's all of those entities collectively. Last year, during 2022, it was about 54 million. So the percentage is reflected against that number, which changes from year to year as the budgets change.
So the answer to the question that we're probably going to be asked over and over again is that if we use 150,000 with the fund balance, it'll equates to about a $20 reduction in a $400,000 home. That's- Okay, thank you. That's clear and concise. That's,
Any other questions?
There's nothing you're gonna do to change it, I mean, it's not real.
So I would just need a motion as to which direction you'd like to go, and then when we get into budget, the continuation of the budget discussions, we would know that if we use that 150 now, it wouldn't be available for any of those special warrant articles.
So we need to do this now, we can't wait till we get to the budget time, see if we use it?
So this, by setting the tax rate, that allows the assessor to prepare the warrant, which would come back to you at a future meeting, which allows the tax collector to then collect. Every week that goes out, that means tax bills go out later and later, and our collection is received later and later. Right now, if you hopefully would approve the tax rate at tonight's meeting, we'd have a warrant for you next week. Bills could go out either probably the second or third week of November, be due back the second week of December. We do have a big payment that has to go out to the county, but it also is just something that we, for cash flow purposes, we do need to get those tax bills out.
I'd make a motion that we do not use the fund balance.
I agree.
Pardon me?
I agree. That's what I would prefer.
That would be my motion. So the tax rate would be, according to this, and this is preliminary tax rate, would be 1886.
With no use of fund balance.
With no use of fund balance.
Does anyone have questions or comments with that? Or strong feelings otherwise? Is that a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion.
I'll second it unless you want to. Okay, I'll second the motion.
Motion by Peter, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain? I personally really like this breakdown on the front. Is this something that we could consider working into the tax bill that gets sent out?
So,
Something similar?
Into the
I
tax
don't know
bill
if they would
before
understand it,
itself?
though.
A breakdown? of
we
tax-
we do put the tax rate breakdown on the website. We provide a breakdown of the tax rate for municipal, county, local education, and state.
Yep, that's all I meant.
Okay,
Just the
yeah, we
front
do,
page.
yeah, we do break that out on the bill already.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Derek, do you have anything else? Are you good?
No, I did not have anything else.
All right, so we'll start our budget deliberations for this evening. The first up is going to be sewer. And we are on tab 9 of our binders.
Good evening. Lynn will be joining me in a minute. She wants to get another slip of paper for me. For the record, my name is Tim Redmond. I am the chairman of the Goffstown Sewer Commission. And I'm here to present our budget to you tonight for your review. In the first section of the budget report, the lines that go all the way down to benefits, which are the first 3, 6, 8 lines, are all generated by the finance department for us. So we ride along with the finance department, including things like benefits, which are, as mentioned earlier, an increase in the health insurance as well as the dental insurance, which I didn't hear, but we were told that dental insurance was also going to be increased this year. And below that are the lines beginning with employee development that are discretionary for the commissioners to decide on. There's some small increases in our budget. One reason we have some small increases is because we added a full-time employee last year. Instead of having 2 full-time employees being Lynn and Corey White, we also added a new employee. So we've made some small increases in some of the items to cover the expenses for the additional employee. If anybody has any particular questions about the first section, which is sewer administration, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions on the first section.
Tim, what's the auditing services? You haven't spent anything this year.
I'm going to ask for an explanation for that from finance, because once again, this is run through finance. Appreciate Danielle's help on that. You might be here a while. So sit down.
No, I'll just hang out. The audited services, it has to do with what we actually have to pay to the audit to complete. So far, we've only done the preliminary billing because we don't have a final audit report, but the sewer pays a portion of that because all of their books are audited as well. So when we get the final report, we'll get the final bill, and that's when we'll charge that line.
You anticipate it to be $2,000 more than last year?
Last year, what we had was an estimator in the 2023 budget because we hadn't yet received direction on which vendor we were going to go with. because we were in the bidding process. You'll see actually in the '24 budget, it's actually reduced on that line, because now we have a contract.
For computers and communication, is that just licenses or is that new devices?
That was, we get that from IT. There's an increase in our software prices for 2024, and all the employees need a new computer, and the sewer foreman's computer is one of those rugged computers that they use in the police cruisers, so that's about $6,000.
How'd you manage to get your property insurance down?
So the property and liability insurance, we're actually on a multi-year agreement with that line as well. So that's why we had a 7% increase townwide. When we looked at the allocation, when we had done the budget in the previous year, we didn't have the rates locked in, so we had estimated higher increases. Now it's adjusted based on the actual known premium rates.
Does anyone else have any questions on sewer administration? Nope. Okay, jumping down to sewer operations. The big one, the first big one that I see is the consulting services.
Okay, if I may, just before we get to that, our discretionary lines begin with 44,150 with his clothing and uniforms. Once again, everything above that comes from Finance Department. In terms of contracted services or consulting service you asked about?
Consulting services.
One of the reasons why we increased our consulting services line is because when Mike Yurgo and Mike Walton were with the department via DPW, Mike Yurgo used to prepare all of the sewer reconstruction plans in-house, and he would then pass them by the engineers and the state for approvals. We no longer have those services available because we no longer have those employees. So we have used the Hoyle and Tanner for contract services to design last year's project, which was on Louis Street in Pinardville, as well as this year's project, which is Albert Street in Pinardville. And those consulting services come with not only the design, but the administration of the contracts. They manage all the financial aspects of the contract and prepare disbursements for work as done, as well as they do on-site inspections, but not all of it. Our employees do the majority of the on-site inspections, so they come out occasionally for an inspection. And they also have helped us with other things that are going on, the repairs at the East Union Pump Station. Right now, we're doing some repairs to the building. The roof is leaking. We have some problems with the masonry. The Elm Street Pump Station was just rebuilt. We had to have consulting services for design on that. We're also doing Riverview Park. There's a failing structure that covers the pump station in Riverview Park. We have to replace that, as well as, what's one other project, Lynn? Do you remember the other project? It's all right. But we're using them exclusively now for all of our design services, so this is why we need to use more money in our consulting services line.
Is that probably is in hand with contracted services?
Contract services is different, Peter. Contract services is, once again, we used to use the town of Goffstown's VACCON for all of our sewer cleaning, and 1/3 of the system annually. We no longer do that because of the agreement we have with DPW. We have their machine available for emergency use only, and we contract with Belmore Maintenance Company, and they are a state bid contractor, by the way. So we contract with them for all of the sewer cleaning services in town now.
And you don't see a lot of actuals yet because they just started doing it.
Yeah, we actually do
I've seen
that
them around
in the
Yeah,
fall.
it's usually
Just
the
getting
last
started
quarter,
now.
yeah.
So that is a lot of what the contract services is. Actually, I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it is.
There's no other contract services.
Any other questions on sewer operations?
I'd like to also bring up the last line, Manchester O&M charges. Presently, that is budgeted in '24 as $660,000. O&M charges, operations and maintenance. That's number one, it's the sewage flow that goes from our town through their meters, and we are charged for by the gallon. What we discovered was Commissioner David Pierce went to along with Lynn and Corey White, went to the annual meeting 2 weeks ago, and they discovered that Manchester has 7 new projects coming online in the next 3 years. 3 of them will be started in '24, 1 in '25, and 3 in '26. So the additional payments that we are going to be required to start making, because we are a 4.11% stakeholder in the wastewater plant in Manchester, in the year '24, we're going to have to pay an extra $52,000 in payments towards their projects, which means we need to increase that line to $725,000 to cover the O&M charges at the Manchester wastewater plant. This is basically, they send us a bill for what's going on and we pay them for what it is.
So it's both the O&M charges and any projects that they have ongoing. And we already have projects that we've been paying on.
He
So
said
for-
725, I got 660.
We're adding 52,000 to that, Peter. I know it's not in there, we only got this information 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and it's all come to light in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so it's in your packet is 660, but in the budget system in Munis, it's in at 725.
So that's our share of the upgrade projects based upon our flow that we send to them.
The
Based on-
upgrade projects and the flow.
The
both.
flow is one number, the upgrade projects, we're a 4.11%
Yeah, no,
stakeholder.
understood.
So whatever that costs them, we are billed 4.11% of their project. And like I said, we have 3 new ones in '24,
Yeah.
1 new one in '25, and '26. So we have a total of 7 projects coming online, which we will be a stakeholder billed for in the next 3 years.
And above that, we got CIP projects. The current year was 507,389, but you spent nothing.
That's because we haven't got our project out this year. We're trying right now to get the Albert Street project, it's out to bid right now. We're hoping to sign a contract with a vendor to either do the work or make sure the money is accounted for and will be spent in the spring of the year if they can't do it over the winter. So that is reason why nothing has been spent out of that line yet.
So, just to clarify, you will have a signed contract before the end of the year?
That's our goal.
Okay.
And once again, we're an enterprise fund, Peter, so we really aren't bound by encumbering money.
No?
No.
Okay.
What would happen is that money that's budgeted would go back into the fund that the trustees handle. And then if next year we would pay that money plus whatever next year's project in, and it would come out of the fund by that methodology.
I have one more question just above that for fleet maintenance. We went from 0 budgeted to 7,200. What's the particular project for that?
I do not know what that particular project is. Equipment repair, as is noted in my column, is general equipment repair, and that equipment maintenance is anything from the lawn mowers that we use to mow the grass with, to the trailer, to the equipment inside the building, which includes pumps and chainsaws and different equipment. So we maintain a modest amount in the equipment repair line to use as needed when it comes up and we need things fixed.
I'm just curious because we went from $0 in 2022 to $1,130 in actuals in 2022.
We bought a new truck, so now we have 2 trucks instead of just one.
Okay.
And that 7,000 that we spent last year was on one of the trucks when it needed repairs, so this was just sort of, if something happens with the vehicles, we have the money there.
So your year-to-date is over 7,000?
No, well, that, yes, but
Doesn't show.
technically,
It's 600 right now.
well, it was, yeah, it was encumbered, it was, well, is that how I want to say it? It was sort of.
Last year-
That was from
last-
the truck from last year.
Last year, our diesel pickup had a problem with the exhaust system, had to go to Ford, and we got a bill for $7,000 to fix the exhaust system on the truck last year. And now, that is what was expended last year to get that truck fixed. Now, I assume, knowing that vehicles do break, that we decided to leave some money in there to take care of the fleet maintenance as well as
But where did you
So
pay that
what-
7,000 out of?
Yes, which year?
It was encumbered in 2020, tell me if I'm saying this correct, in 2022, but the actual invoice and the payments didn't come out until 2023, so it
And it
came out
doesn't
encumbered.
show up on this budget report. Once
Oh,
we
they don't see
encumber,
that?
once we encumber funds and do it as a carry forward PO, it doesn't hit this year.
Well, then how do we look at it and say, okay, they spent this much money, so they need this much money for the following year, if it doesn't show? Because it shows they spent nothing in '22, they spent $1,130 in '22, and then nothing in '23, or $624 in '23, and there's nothing encumbered. How do we follow that?
I guess we would have to look at what we could get out for a report for encumbered POs and by line.
So
Well,
does the
There isn't
encumbrance,
encumbered lines here.
That's in this year only.
Okay.
But when you look back at the '22, those actuals do not, once it goes to a carry forward status and we start the new year, it's tracked on a different, for GAAP purposes, it's tracked as a carry forward. So it doesn't hit this year. So I'm sure there's a way we can get it out of the system, but.
Well, you see what I'm saying? We don't know you spent $7,000 anywhere.
okay. Do you want to move on to the sewer pump station section?
Okay, these are all discretionary fence funding by the sewer department commissioners. I think the only major change we made there was if you go all the way down to the second line from the bottom, equipment repairs. We used to always carry $100,000 in that line, and we're conscious of the fact that we've been asked to keep our budget down for a lot of reasons, and we reduced that to 50 this year. Once again, equipment repairs in the pump stations start at $10,000 a pump, or $12,000 or $15,000 a pump, and we have probably 8 or 10 pumps town-wide. So we have to maintain enough money in that account so that if we have failures, we can do it, we can have them fixed. I know we can go to the trustees now and get money from the trustees, but it doesn't seem right to be running back and forth to the trustees for $50,000 for pumps. So we reduced it from $100,000 to $50,000 as an effort to try to be more conscious of the budget and how we represent the budget and present it to you folks.
On the second line, operating supplies, what happened there?
That, we had a couple of large expenses. We purchased, we used to be part of DPW, and we used to use their equipment to mow the lawns and to weed whack and do all that. Well, we went out on our own, so now we needed to purchase all that. So we purchased a weed whacker, a lawnmower, and then also a trailer. We used to borrow their trailer, but now we've purchased our own, so that's why.
We actually went to 1 year of contract services, and we had someone cutting our grass for us, and I found out about that, and I thought that was foolish. If we had employees, why would we pay someone else to cut the grass? So our employees now take care of the maintenance of the facility as well as the lawns, and we needed to buy some equipment to take care of it with, and we expect a long life out of the equipment we bought. We bought professional grade equipment, not some Home Depot mowers.
Sure, Home Depot would love to hear you say that.
I don't really care.
And the very last line,
Yes, pump station upgrades. We are, as you know, we are nearly complete with the Elm Street pump station upgrade. Matter of fact, we just signed a release for the final amount of encumbered funds over there. And, not encumbered, the final amount of the final bill over there. We still have retainage for 1 year beyond that, but as far as I know, the pump station upgrade was for the Elm Street pump station.
it's showing a credit though.
Well, maybe, I don't know the exact number on that, because I don't have the information with me in front of me.
It's negative $71,541.
Pump station upgrade, we don't have a note next to it.
Why, that's not in our records here.
I mean, this year we're showing nothing.
On ours,
I know
there's a
that there's
negative
money
number.
available in there. Maybe we didn't spend as much as the contract was, maybe we got some credits on the contract. I don't have the information, but I would get it and supply it to the board if they'd like to know what that.
It doesn't show anything budgeted, but you have shown a credit of $71,541.
We didn't,
I'm showing
we're not budgeting in '24 for another pump station upgrade. This has been going
I
on for a year and a
understand.
half.
Okay.
I'll take a look at what we pulled into the budget
negative
report,
number.
because their year-to-dates on their specific year-to-date column doesn't seem to be populating correctly. The question on the fleet maintenance, when Lynn and I compared to the year-to-date report that we get out of the system, it does show the $7,000 being spent. And now the credit, I'll look in Munis and
Okay.
see if we can get more information about the current year.
Any other questions on the sewer pump stations or overall?
If you'd like that information on that, why we haven't spent the 71,000, I will find out from the engineer.
She just said that she was going to check into
We're
it.
gonna check into this one? Thank you.
All right, great, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And next up, we have police. And we are on tab 3. And everyone should have had a packet on there.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Chief.
My name is Chair, as usual. So, tonight we're going to go over the 2024 budget for the PD. And I'd like to just kind of start with the, you guys all received a copy of this, correct? That presentation. Really quick, when you look at the overview of the budget, you'll notice that our 2023 budget was $5,461,735. And this year, in 2024, we're proposing a 0.31% increase, not even 0.5%. I'd like to just preface all that, as you'll see when I move forward this presentation, that this does not include our 2 CBAs that we're negotiating this year. So this is really me trying to be as clean as we could and lean on the budget. The operations budget this year is $4,277,028. Communications $1,010,549. Our CIP went up 6%. You'll see later on in the presentation, we're still looking for 3 cruisers. With that being said, you'll see we're going to try two that are going to be Chevy Tahoes this year and 1 SUV, which I presented to CIP committee. Overall, we have 8 lines that increased and 5 that decreased. Next page, you'll see operations increases, the wages. This is to include full-time wages, part-time, retirement, Medicare, longevity, FICA, a lot of the stuff that we can't control. Again, that does not include the CBAs, which are going to be on a separate warrant article, but that went up $28,470. We did see an increase for next year for travel expenses. We're planning on sending, we have 2 different conferences coming up. We're planning on sending out of state, 1 in patrol for officers and 1 for CALIA for our accreditation manager. So you'll see that in communications. So this year's, we did go up travel expense $9,340. The other 2 that went up significantly were going to be electricity and gasoline, which I think all of you guys know here is sort of a moving target as we look into next year. So we're estimating our increases are going to be about $5,000 each on each of those lines. Some of our decreases this year for operations, we're going to see a part-time wage decrease by $10,000, $10,398. Overtime, that's one that I'm struggling with. We decreased it by $25,000, $500. Some of the logic behind that is we have not been close to our target in the last 7 years. And most likely, we're not going to come close to next year. So I'm kind of rolling the dice with bringing it down slightly to kind of see where we're at in the budget. Police retirement went down significantly, $45,731. Employee development went down $4,325. And our equipment line went down $6,597. Communications section of our budget, we have our radio maintenance, our equipment maintenance line. The increase was $31,180. I'll bring you guys back to our radio maintenance contract that we have a 5-year agreement with Cybercom. That $31,000 reflects the increase for what's already in the budget to bring it up to what they need for each year, which is roughly about $45,000. The employee development for communications went up $1,900. That's for the travel for the CLIA conference that our accreditation manager is going to go to next year. Clothing went up about $1,000 due to just the market. All our uniforms and clothing is going up. And then the wages obviously went up $14,894. Again, for dispatch, they're in the negotiation as well. That does not include those separate articles. Next page is CIP. The total number this year is $191,334. That's for all 3 cruisers, to include the 2 Tahoes, fully outfitted with all the gear that's in there. I did do a quick breakdown for everybody. The total cost for the Chevys are $64,886. That's with the outfitting and buying the vehicle. Those are each. And then the SUV for the Ford is $61,562. And then you can see the actual vehicle costs we're getting for them. You can see it's really only a difference of about $1,000 for the Chevy versus the Ford. My presentation to the CIP committee and also talking to the board here in past is we are just experiencing cancellations from Ford. All of our colleagues around us are having the same experience. So we're seeing other agencies try different vehicles. I think I've said this in the past. We've seen other agencies do Tahoes. We've seen some do Dodge Dakotas. We've seen Dodge Chargers. It seems like the Tahoes are kind of where everybody's going towards. So we're looking to try to get 2 to test them out and see if that's going to work for us as well. I did put a note on here that these quotes that we received are based on 2023 pricing. So next year when we get to that, hopefully we can kind of keep those same state bid. I'm not sure where we're going to go. As you guys know, the last couple of years it's been a mess for us trying to get cars, and then they cancel and the prices go up and down. So that's just to give you guys a caveat. That's where we're at, where we're getting our numbers at.
Chief, last year we were looking at the situation between the time we ordered it and the time it was delivered. The prices just went crazy. Increases.
We had the orders in March, after about April. That situation, we got to September, they canceled the order on us. All of the Fords got canceled. We ended up finding 3 on a lot, and I think we ended up paying a couple $1,000s more per car because they were there. Or our other option was we buy the 24s, wait for those to get off the assembly line, and I think that number was probably closer to $5,000 to $6,000 more per car. That was kind of where we were at with that one. Does that memory serve you right?
Yeah, it sure does.
Okay.
Painfully so.
What's the availability of the Tahoes?
Right.
We're hearing that they're there. It's just a matter of what's going to happen next year.
Yeah.
The other thing that we're looking at when we're talking about vehicles is our blue that we're getting is not an easy car to get, and we're experiencing that being a problem as well. So we're talking about potentially just going to an all-black cruiser, like everywhere around us, which would actually cost a little bit less and easier to get. So that's what we're going to try to see next year, if that's something that would work for our agency. It would drastically change our image for our cruisers, but we're looking into that.
And the excuse, and I say it's an excuse because when people see the Tahoes, they're going to say, why are we spending $10,000 more on a cruiser. What's our excuse? What's our reasoning? Availability, reliability?
We're not spending $10,000 more cruiser.
No, than the ones we're getting now?
We're,
Well, we spent $45,000 this last time, right?
no.
What did we spend?
For the vehicle.
Different vehicle.
Right,
The-
with the outfit.
The cost,
The differences.
the cost
That's
difference,
the Ford SUV.
the cost difference per car was about $1,000 more for the Tahoe than the
Okay,
Ford.
because I'm a business, I thought you were talking when you said the Ford SUV, something like the Explorer type vehicle versus the vehicle you're using now.
The vehicles that we use now, those are the SUVs, the Ford, they call them Interceptors, it's an
Right.
Explorer. That's one that we're looking at getting as well, which is $42,865. The Tahoes are $43,758. So you're talking a difference of just shy of
Okay,
$1,000.
then that's a no-brainer, I see what you're saying.
Okay. Just to kind of roundabout, to kind of show everybody what our cost drivers are for our agency, well, you can see that personnel is the major cost driver in our department. Personnel wages are 88% of our overall budget. 8% of our budget is operating costs, is non-wage related, and CIP is 3.5%. Quick snapshot of our agency to give everybody some thoughts. Personnel in our agency, total employees, we have 32 sworn police officers, 1 part-time sworn, we have 10 dispatchers, 4 support staff, and 5 part-time crossing guards. We have, for vehicles, 10 line cruisers that are on a 3-year cycle, 5 unmarked cruisers that are on a 3-year cycle. We have 1 pickup truck, 1 command post, and 1 radar trailer. Those are the big cost drivers as well. And then you see our second slide here, I always like to put in some pictures of what we do in the community. That picture was with the cop car winners. We had the ice cream social for the schools, and then we did a big tournament with fire and police, the junior baseball challenger league. That was all the challenger kids came out. We played softball with them, and of course we lost by about 50-0. And then the last page is just my plea that we're hiring. So that's pretty much my overall 30,000-foot presentation. Any questions?
Yep.
All right, so if we look at the, oh, you have a question on that?
No, I was going back to the beginning, I didn't want to interrupt them on this.
Okay, go for it.
On the travel expense of $9,340, that's for how many people?
3.
3. And you have 1 more in dispatch, or is that, because you have some travel and dispatch also, right?
Yep, that's going to be our accreditation manager going to a different conference. That's a CLIA conference. The other conference for police officers, we're trying to send them out of state to a conference for basically police training. There's all kinds of different trainings in this conference that I think would be advantageous for our agency.
And just, not the, why did the police retirement go down 45? Is that because of the people that left?
Yes, sir. So what you're seeing is you're having people that are at a certain level that are we're paying a lot more money to their wages for that retirement stage up. As people retire or leave the profession or go to different agencies, our new positions become that base wage,
Right.
which is less paying into retirement.
Okay, I'm done.
So starting on the budget itself, I'm on page 9 of 28, line 45,263, the IACP net. What is that?
That is our International Association for Chiefs of Police network.
Okay.
It has, it is a website that we can log into that gives us access to different policies that we can grab from there.
Is that an annual, why is it overspent?
I don't know. I saw
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Because usually it's $875. I have to talk to Danielle about that. I noticed it got hit twice this year.
Okay.
And I want to go back and look at that. Usually it's $875 a year. You'll see the history has always been that. So I don't know if it got charged twice or maybe that other $875 is a mistake.
Okay.
I did notice that though.
Does anyone else have questions on page 9?
I got nothing.
Okay.
Furnitures and fixtures, you have a plan?
For this year or next year?
Well, I mean, so far this year, you've spent $2,100.
We do have a plan.
Okay.
We will be expending all of that.
Same thing with computers and comm equipment repairs?
Yes, that one will have to get changed with finance. That should actually be radars. I don't know why it says that. We need to change the name, but that is a radar line. We are in the process of purchasing, let me pull it up real quick. That one, we do our radar calibrations, it's about $1,200 a year to calibrate all our radars, and we're due to buy, we have budgeted for 2 this year, which are $3,000 a piece, and a handheld. So we're just about, we'll expend that this year. We ordered 1, we're waiting for 2 more to come in.
Chief, the line went under 49,400 advertising. So we've had 200 budgeted for the past 2 years with 0 expended. And we still have it in the budget next year for 200. Is that a place where we could potentially be advertising for vacancies and
So-
using that?
So what we've been doing, yes and no. We're finding that our advertisements, the way we're utilizing our vacancies is through social media. We use a free company called policeapp.com, which basically everybody goes to, they pay the fee, and then we get all the results for free.
Has that been successful?
That's where we're getting all our applications from. The advertisement portion that we've been talking about and what we use internally is when we boost posts on social media, we're using that as our advertisement budget. So like when we did our closure the other day for Pumpkin Regatta, we boosted that throughout our social media, but you're not talking, it's a couple, $10, $15 here and there.
Okay.
But I think years ago, you'd use that funding for newspaper articles and clippings, and we're not seeing that as being an effective way to advertise to the younger generation.
Any other questions on this page?
Good.
I do have one on page 11, equipment maintenance, line 53,420. So that one has been a little bit of a roller coaster across the years from budgeted and actual.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about that line and why we're seeing the increase?
Yep, that's the line that we use for anything that was our radio problems that we've had in the past. If you guys, I'll bring your memory back to, we had that failure at 17 a couple years ago. We had to pay $18,000 to get that fixed. We use that line for all of that. What the increase is, that's where I put the maintenance agreement with Cybercom. I put that in that line, so that's where you're seeing that huge increase. And we also left a little bit of money in there for any other problems that we have that come up.
Okay.
How much was the maintenance agreement?
For year 2, which will be next year, it's $42,680. And of course, like everything else, each year goes up incrementally.
Any other questions?
I have nothing else.
You good?
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief, you're welcome, thank you. Have a good night.
I didn't even have to say it, he's already on the move. All right, we are on tab 4. Hello, Chief.
Good evening.
Okay, so this year, you have in your packages the budget overview for the fire department. And on page 2, as you know, the fire department provides a number of services to the community, including fire suppression, emergency medical services, hazmat, community risk reduction, emergency management and planning, community emergency response teams, and community outreach. Looking back at our fire and EMS calls for services, in 2022, we did 2,770 calls for service, and year to date, we've done 2,199, and the way it's tracking, we're probably going to be above 2,700 by the end of the year. On your next page, page 3, this gives you a breakdown of the types of calls we're responding to. It's no surprise that the majority of our calls are for EMS and rescue. In 2022, 1,794 of them, or 65% of our calls, is EMS and rescue calls. We met some benchmarks this year with the budget and operations. As I said earlier, we are experiencing an increase in calls for services. We did complete the final design spec for a 2022 Pierce Enforcer engine. This was a capital improvement project that we had. That came in at $703,313. Proud to say we were about $61,000 lower than what we had budgeted for it. And so far it's tracking for us to take delivery of it in January of this year, 2024. We also completed the final design and have on order a 2023 Ford PL Custom. Should actually be a 350 or 450 ambulance, and that's going to replace the 2020 ambulance, which was involved in an accident and had a frame issue, so it was totaled, and that replacement cost in full is being paid by Primex. And that currently is on order now, and I'm waiting to get a date for it to get on the assembly line. And we ordered and have had delivered to the dealer a Ford F-250 utility pickup truck to replace the 2009 F-250 pickup truck. And we put in the purchase and order and we're waiting a check, and we'll pick it up within the next week or so. We completed the regrading and paving on the rear parking lot at Fire Station 18. And I just want to thank Adam for his help with that. He's the one that helped coordinate with Continental Paving and actually got us a real good price to have it done. So this year we're also continuing to fund 4 of the SAFER grant positions through the SAFER program. 100% of the funding is provided from the grant for those 4 individuals through November of 2024. The amount of the funding for those 4 firefighters is approximately $392,000, and that covers the salaries and benefits costs with everything except overtime. We completed the $1.8 million fire and police radio infrastructure project. This is a major milestone for the town, and the significant improvement in radio transmission and receiving and everything for police and fire has taken out a very serious safety issue that was there before. So we're very happy with it. It's working 100%. And Lieutenant Pinard at the police station did an awesome job coordinating it. We conducted a facility study at Fire Station 17 on Terrell Hill Road. That was in response to a warrant article. I have received the final report. I'll be forwarding it to the board. Figured we'd get through the budget thing first and then bring it to the board to look over. We evaluated and tested early warning system for residents who live downstream. If you recall, there was an early warning system which was a Plectron type radio. The Glen Falls Dam has switched that over to a code red software type program, and we have switched those people downstream to that. Facility-wise, we replaced a number of lighting fixtures and installed automatic light turn-off switches throughout the fire stations to conserve energy, and switched out a number of old air conditioners with newer energy-efficient ones. This year, we've experienced a number of vacancies throughout the budget year due to personnel leaving Goffstown Fire to go to other fire departments. I'm troubled to tell you that we currently have 7 vacancies within the department. That's pretty much a quarter of the firefighting response force. Obviously, it creates a shortage of manpower and increase the cost of overtime so we can maintain a safe level of personnel on duty. We are currently taking a number of steps to try and reverse the number of vacancies. This is a state, regional, and national shortage of firefighter EMTs, so other departments are facing the same challenges. Our goals for next year: maintain a strong recruitment and retention effort in order to build back our staffing levels. We also look to maintain, service, and repair our fleet of fire vehicles and apparatus. Our preventative maintenance programs are demonstrating a reduction in out-of-service vehicles due to routine maintenance and servicing. We're going to continue to maintain and upgrade fire department facilities in order to keep them in a reliable state. That includes upgrading them some HVAC, lighting, and other energy-saving initiatives. We've also done and will continue to provide some security upgrades to the facilities in order to protect our assets. We are continuing on the development of GFD personnel through training of current skills in both fire and EMS, as well as enhancement of the department's officers' leadership abilities. We'll be requesting funding to replace specialized rope and rescue equipment that is beyond the recommended service age. Currently, that equipment is 15 to 20 years old. We'll continue to develop and work with our Citizens Emergency Response Team, or CERT. This group provides us with a resource, both police and fire, to assist with non-emergency type activities. And then under emergency management, we will continue to meet and partner with the Goffstown School District and police on emergency school planning, training, and securing the school facilities. Also, our hazard mitigation plan, that's due up for a review again. That's grant funded through the state. So I'll be coming to the board to apply for that, to update that plan. On page 6, the Fire Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund. This year, again, as we do every year, we're requesting $250,000 to build up the Fire Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund. We will be due for replacement of an engine, I think, in 25 or 26. And that is the only capital improvement program I have this year. On page 7, this is a fiscal 2024 fire department overview of some of the significant changes we're going to see in our wage and wage-related lines. We're going to see a 2.98% 6%, about 53,000, and a lot of that is contractual obligations for increases for the unions. And unfortunately, our overtime pay is going up over half, or an additional $118,000, and again, because of the vacancies that we have. I mentioned the SAFER grant offset in revenue, that's $377,790. Our facility maintenance, repairs, and project, that's gone down 27%, for about $11,000. Part of that was because we did the paving program, and through our preventative maintenance, our repair and service costs are going down. Diesel fuel's up 51%, about $7,000. Gasoline's up about 41%, about $2,900. So the total fire operations, payroll-related costs, my budget's up at 7.27, and the total fire operations non-payroll related cost is up 8%, or about $47,000. As the board knows, supply and material costs has just gone skyrocketed and out of control, and that transmits to like our turnout equipment and everything. So that's the majority of that cost. And again, the chart below, our budget request is for $3,647,128 for the fire part of our budget. And as you can see, our personnel cost, similar to the police department, ours is 83% of the entire budget. Page 8, if you switch over to there, that's the the EMS budget overview. As you know, that funding's in a enterprise fund that we collect revenues from. And this past year, the wage and wage-related costs are down 5%. Part-time wages are down 6%. Overtime pay, like the fire, is up 32% because we take a portion of the fire department overtime and we apply it to the EMS fund because firefighters are also EMTs. And then diesel fuel on that end is down, and it's down because we have a new budget line for gasoline of $12,000, and that's because the new ambulance is going to be a gas-driven ambulance versus the diesel that the other ones were. So total EMS operations, payroll-related costs are up 0.85%, about $2,750. And our operations, EMS is up 10%. That's about $21,400, again, for increased supplies and equipment costs. Next, on page 9 is emergency management. We pretty much level funded, or it is down a little. We reduced some of the CERT costs because we bought some equipment they don't need. And then the overall increase from last year, it's down 4.74%. So that's my budget overview.
So, Chief, the first question that I have for you is on the wages, wages and wage-related line, and then the overtime pay. So that wage and wage-related line is at full capacity of staff, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how did we calculate the overtime? Is that with the assumption that we will not be at full capacity, or?
So there is a supplement in your package too. That'd probably be a good time to go over. It's a overtime review. Let me see if I can find one.
Page 1 of the system.
Is that in there? Thanks.
Is there an extra one there?
There's another. Does everyone else have one?
Yeah.
It's the green.
Got it.
Yep.
No, sure. Fire.
Yeah, but I don't have any other stuff.
Okay. I'll get you a copy.
So knowing, you know,
Thank you.
knowing that overtime, you know, has really gone up, I created a overtime summary for the budget year. Basically, your first sheet, same figures, just demonstrates different ways of our budgeted overtime versus actual overtime by year. So between 2020 and '24, we typically have put in a overtime budget. However, the actual overtime budget has always been higher. And of course, the reason for that is we went to 24/7 operations. We hired 13 new people that we put on in various stages of training. So those costs have gone up. The second slide on the right basically does the same thing, except also we have tried to project what the potential overtime overage could go as high as $464,000. That's in addition to, not in addition, but that's what, with the budgeted funds we have too. And then that, right next to that in 2024, we're asking for $341,000. So to your question, real quick, if you look at page 2, so there are a number of activities or events which require us to expend overtime, including the Federal Labor Standards Act, FLSA, that's a federal law, New Hampshire RSA, collective bargaining agreements, callback of personnel during emergencies, holdover of personnel, say they get off at 8 in the morning, it never fails, 7:30, 7:45, they get a EMS call and their replacement hasn't arrived, so you have to by law pay them the overtime.
So Chief, I understand what goes into overtime payment. However, what I'm asking is if full-time wages, so we're at a increase in overtime due to a deficit in staffing, if I understand you correctly.
Yes.
So we're funding or requesting for 2024 the increase to our full-time staff as if we were fully staffed, but also an increase in overtime as if we were operating at a staff deficit. Do you understand?
With double budgeting.
Right.
You're not really double, but, well, I'm budgeting for what would be a fully staffed fire department,
So-
okay? So if I budget like that, okay, what I've shown you is that every year that we budget that, we actually under budget for overtime, and we end up over expending overtime.
So you're anticipating for 2024, our regular wages and our part-time wages are showing the increase based on our CBA, and our overtime wages are going to increase by that much with a full allotment of staff, if we were to have it.
No,
Okay.
the overtime's gonna increase because we have 7 vacancies.
Yeah, but you're budgeting for those 7 vacancies in the regular wages. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and the overtime amount.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
If you
I
look,
understand what you're saying, but I don't know what the proposed solution would be.
I'm just trying to clarify, I mean, typically, the increase in overtime amount would be taken from
Regular wages.
the regular wages.
if you go and look at the last page of that overtime summary, so there's a breakdown of how we're budgeting for overtime.
So we asked the same question when the number came in for us to calculate the benefits on the overtime line. And so what the fire department had done is they provided to us this breakdown of how they were coming to this number. They used an average of their hourly rates because obviously the OT rates vary from person to person. They are budgeting for, based on what's been used in this year from January to September, and rounding out the year if it stays on the same trajectory. And it's covering comp time used that they have to backfill, personal time, sick time, vacation. As far as vacancy goes, they only budgeted for 1,977 hours of vacancy time, which is less than one position.
Yeah, it's 1/3.
1/3 of one
the-
position.
So we're budgeting for what we normally would for the amount of sick time, vacation time, based on the number of people we have. And then what we budgeted more for is based on 1/3 of the number of vacancies that we have. And actually, we budgeted for 5 people, not 7, because it's actually changed in 2-3 weeks.
I get it, I get what you're saying, I mean, I understand Derek saying, well, what would you do, but wouldn't you do transfers from your regular wages to the overtime pay?
It wouldn't be a 1-to-1, you would still
I
have to
understand
budget in
that,
your
right.
overtime, but yes, you could do that as an alternative.
And then also, aren't you inflating, I shouldn't say inflating, that's not really a good word, but aren't you increasing your FICA and Medicare retirement when you do it this way?
Well, you're
When you're double budgeting, because you're really double budgeting for those positions.
for 2,000 hours. There is Medicare, there's no FICA on those positions, but yes, Medicare, NHRS, those are budgeted based on the qualifiers. We do typically see some allotment of hours in case of vacancies historically across these departments. As far as the backfill, it's my understanding that they're not backfilling all of their current hours. So of the other hours, comp time, personal sick, vacation, training hours, things of that nature, you're also only budgeting a percentage of those. So I suppose the understanding would be even if the vacancy hours weren't there, the hours could be added to those other categories which are known to be coming. Since we know we have X number of people who have a certain number of hours each year for vacation or things of that nature.
So this year, let's just look at this year. We budgeted $1,797,000, right? So far, we spent $1,175,000. According to, through 9/30. But we overspent the overtime line by about $125,000.
I think it's more than that, let me look.
Well, I'm just looking at what this
As of
is.
9:30 is what
Yeah.
our sheet says.
It's more like 153,000.
That could be, but could be my math.
$153,356
For when?
as of today.
Well, as of today, well, look, our numbers are as of 9:30.
Yeah.
I just think there's gotta be a way to clean that up a little bit. No?
Which, I'm just not sure how you'd have us reduce it. If we reduce the overtime, then knowing that there could be additional hours backfilled, are we just gonna run it short and be over by 150,000 like we are this year? I mean, the two offset each other in this case because we did have more
Right.
vacancies than expected.
Exactly, but now, the way this is now, it's budgeting, it's for full, right, and
But what we don't budget for when we budget for full is we don't budget for training hours, we don't budget for comp time used, we don't budget for any sick time or vacation time used. We're budgeting for the one person who is taking their vacation time because they're each budgeted for 1 full year of service, but we're not budgeting anything for people backfilling until we get to the overtime lines.
So, I guess I'll put it into this perspective. And I'm not saying this is wrong, I'm just questioning it because we've, to my knowledge, haven't done it like this before. If we're budgeting for overtime, then why don't we just reduce one of those positions out of the budget? If we're already budgeting for the overtime due to vacancy.
We're not. We're budgeting for only 1/3 of a full-time position.
But we're anticipating that the hours will be vacant.
We're not anticipating a vacancy though. That's for just the turnover.
So you're saying, okay, so if we have
Transitions,
full-
but remember when someone leaves, we also have payouts of vacation, accrued time, things of that nature. So that's essentially absorbing the transition period of turnover.
I guess, but I mean, I don't understand how we could calculate that if we're anticipating or budgeting for a fully staffed department. And maybe I'm missing it, but this,
Well, I mean, I have no choice but to show you numbers for a fully staffed fire department.
no, I hear you, and I see this year's. I'm not saying it's wrong. Again, I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to me that, I don't know, maybe
Are
I
you
need to think
thinking-
about this more, but this does seem like double
Are you
budgeting.
thinking, when I say to you vacancies, are you thinking I'm trying to fund the overtime for all 7 positions? Because I'm not, I'm only trying for 1/3 of those positions. And then if you look at it that way, then as Danielle said, we have known costs in compensation time, personal time, sick time, training, those are the typical shift staffing hours that any agency would have to budget for.
Well then, Danielle, I'll ask you, do we budget that way overtime in all of our departments?
Each department gives us a different projection based on what they anticipate for their overtime hours. Typically, we get a lump sum number based on historical usage.
And we work a 24-hour shift versus, other shifts that work 8 hours.
Between the two lines, this year versus next year, it's $200,000
Increase.
increase.
Yeah. It's all, a lot of it's a game of averages, right? What have you spent so far? We've got a pretty good trend. We can see what's happening 9 months, so then we, estimate and fill in the other 3 months. You can absolutely cut it down, and, but next year, as I've been doing every year, telling you early on, look, we're over on overtime, and the big thing too is, as we say, the guys aren't taking overtime. They're getting burnt out pretty quick, but.
And I understand it's a half more, 1.5 more when you go to overtime, I get that,
So when you fully staff, Pete, right, and we're doing just the salaries, not the overtime line, you can pick up some of them costs from the vacancies, from the 7 positions. It's the half, the time and a half, the half part is that you gotta try and make up.
I get it, I know, I understand how it's working.
Yeah.
I just, if you figure it that way, it's actually even more egregious when you look at it, so, I don't know. We'll have to beat that one to death, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and any adjustments that are made to that line, we would do the corresponding projections for any reduction in
Benefits.
benefits.
Yeah.
So Chief, sorry I didn't find it in here, but so for 2023, do you happen to know how many overtime hours were budgeted for? Because I see you wrote for 2024.
I
Do you-
can, just give me a second. Where did I see it? In 2023, we budgeted 223,000. In 2022, we budgeted 172,000. You were looking for hours, right? Or were you?
Yeah.
7,247 for shift,
This year.
yeah.
I'm just looking for the difference in hours. I know the calculation for benefits and the wages themselves differ year over year based on the CBA, but I don't need it right this second, but I would like to see a comparison of how many hours we budgeted for last year versus this year,
Okay.
if that's possible.
Yep,
I just think also if this is the thing that makes the most sense, that we have a more clear explanation for the budget committee, because I still feel like I need to think about this a little bit more. But maybe that will be an easier way to break it down, I'm not sure. Any other questions on this in particular? Comments?
that's why I made this up, I knew it was coming, you know.
I mean, Chief, we all understand how this works, absolutely, and this is something that, you know, as you see year over year, this is a problem, but I just want to make sure moving forward, we're either telling the story more concisely or make sure we're budgeting in good faith.
So, just to go back to the first page, where it says wage and wage-related lines, that was an increase of 53,657. That contract related, would that be correct?
Yes.
Or wage,
Are you back in,
yeah, I'm back.
It's
Wait,
on
the
page
chart?
7 of
Yeah.
your presentation.
yes, that is a contractual COLA increase within the collective bargaining unit.
And plus staff.
Yes, non-union staff,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll circle back to that one. If you could get us those numbers, that would be helpful. So, I'm sorry, Chief, are you done with your presentation portion? Can we move on to the
Yep.
budget itself? Okay, great.
I could be done with everything if you'd like.
I got more questions, don't worry. Okay, so page 12 of 28, the first page for fire operations. Does anyone have any questions on this page?
Yes.
I have one too, go ahead.
Operating supplies.
You took mine.
Huh?
You took mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Which line was that?
It's line 47-120. So looking at the amount of increase and then the year-to-date spend, do you have something planned for next year, or is that just general increase
Let me
percentage?
see what we got.
47-120.
So, this is, you know, I mentioned earlier the rope rescue equipment replacement. That's $5,000. And we're also requesting a thermal imaging camera to replace an older one. That's $11,000. So that's basically a $12,000 increase in that line.
And will your year-to-date be spent? Sorry, that's
No,
that's your
that's what I was
question.
gonna ask. He's only spent 3,200 this year out of 23,000. You must have something coming.
So you're gonna look at my budget, and you're gonna see a lot of lines have not been spent, and it's only because I'm afraid of the overtime costs and, trying to stay within my cost center, but I gauge it as I'm watching the budget towards the end of the year here, like last week, I had a huge, we bought some of the equipment we had budgeted for last week, so it's gonna be late in coming, but
Okay.
it'll definitely be.
No, I can appreciate you keeping an eye on that.
Any other questions on that page? Page 13, under the general fund, line 52,435, alarm repairs and maintenance.
Okay. Let me just grab that for you.
It's not a huge increase, I'm just more interested in what comes out of that line.
So that, the alarm repairs and maintenance, that is for the fire alarm system, throughout town.
And if you look in your warrant for this week, that was over the weekend, they had bills of almost $10,000 on that line. That were in this weekend's warrant.
It's hard to know when you're looking at it, which line they're going at. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, without having this in front of you.
Right.
Right. Let me just, I'm gonna locate it here. I've got it all broken down.
You answered my question on the diesel versus gasoline, but I did see kind of a switch in diesel versus gasoline on the fire side versus the operating. So can you just talk about, did any fuel lines jump? Like, did we move budget from one fuel line to a different section of the budget, or is that just the changes overall?
Are you looking at the fire operations diesel fuel?
So I'm looking on page 13, which is fire operations. Yeah, there's the change to diesel and also gasoline. And then I was looking at, on page 25, diesel and gasoline as well, and just seeing if there was budget changes,
Yes.
like
So-
line to line.
So diesel and gas is, diesel's actually up 51%, and that's based on the gallonage. Last year,
Right.
the gallonage was way below 347.
So what I'm asking, Chief, is over on page 25, because we have diesel and gasoline on multiple places. So I'm asking if
Okay.
there was budget changes anywhere for the amounts based on.
Yes, so
the-
on,
okay.
on page 25, that switches over to the EMS fund.
Yep.
And as I had mentioned before, the new ambulance is gonna be a gas ambulance, so this year we budgeted gas for the new ambulance, but we did reduce the diesel line on that. So there won't be the same, we're talking ambulances versus fire engines, and is that what you're looking for, or?
Yes.
It doesn't look like a good yes.
On page 25, 53,250 for fleet maintenance. Do we have anticipated maintenance coming up?
$350 fleet maintenance.
250, yep, it's towards the bottom. It's on fire EMS fleet.
Yeah,
maintenance.
that's anything from servicing of it, repairs.
So the increase is just a general increase, or is that based
Yeah,
on
overall,
this year's? Okay.
The cost of repair, service, parts.
All right, sorry, I jumped ahead to the next page without asking. Does anyone have any other questions on page 13? Page 25?
Yes. To general fund, what does that mean, Derek?
That's a transfer over to the general fund that we do at the end of the year for different services provided to the EMS revenue fund.
So that comes out of the revenue fund
It goes to, and it's
into
a-
the general fund
Yep, as a
for,
revenue.
what's townhouse services or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
My last question is on page 26, 53, 350. It's the only item on that page. What comes out of machinery and equipment? So we hadn't budgeted anything in 2023. We have nothing spent year to date. Nothing budgeted in 2024.
Remember what that is?
I believe was it the stretchers?
Before we got the,
Could very, or the
Was it the stretchers or the lift? I'm looking it up again.
UTV, was-
we're not talking about the ETV.
pull that out of my back.
So
Was
that
it-
was for Stryker.
Stretchers.
Okay, good.
The Life Pack. No,
the defibrillators?
Yeah, it was for the defibrillators. You had purchased 2 replacements.
And that was offset by a grant, because I think it was like 70,000. We
Yeah.
got the grant,
Yeah.
so that's,
But I believe the stretchers in the past have also been paid from that line because we, fire
So
department
they're-
you had 3 of them and they got a grant for purchase, I think, too.
So there's a need to
The
keep that line?
27,000 or 28,000 is what we paid.
We typically keep the line in there to show the history,
Okay.
and then,
It'll fall off next year, I was just wondering. Any other questions on the fire lines or the EMS?
so my takeaway is you want to know how many hours or break down overtime from last year, right?
Yeah,
You want to compare and contrast.
exactly.
Okay,
I just want
But
to
you
make
understand what we're
the,
talking about when we're saying we're double budgeting, right?
I do,
Okay.
I do. Or it seems like you are.
Right, exactly.
well, I need the justification to be a little bit more clear.
And I know Danielle or Derek wouldn't let me go $1 over unless it was, but they jumped right on it too, you know? I get it, I get what you're saying.
Like I said, if this is the best solution, we need to be better prepared for budget committee, so. It'll be a big discussion, I'm sure.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Parks and Rec, Rick, you're back up. And
6.
we are on tab 6, thank you, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair, can I just say one thing before you continue on?
Thanks, Rick.
I'd really be remiss if I didn't mention Brenda, our executive secretary, and the work and the data that she tracks on all these numbers. That makes it, easier to break down and go and look at stuff. So I truly appreciate everything she does. She works real hard for us.
Thank you, Chief. We certainly know you'd be lost without her.
Ready to roll?
Absolutely.
Okay, ready to roll. Let's see, Parks and Recreation. I don't have anything real fancy for you. I'm going down and dirty with numbers and explanations. I figure I'll with the budget committee, I'll put together a nice presentation to explain more what the department is all about. I believe you guys kind of know what the department is all about, so it's a different theory and approach. 2024, what I like to do is first talk about the operating budget, and then I'll finish that and then go into our CIP request. So the bottom line, our budget for 2024 has a proposed $36,000 increase, about a 6% increase. If you look at the lion's share of that money right there, it's really in part-time staffing. Part-time staffing is a big number for us. We employ 23, 24 seasonal staff throughout the summer, and we have 2 Browns seasonal kids that come in and they work between May and November. So the lion's share of the money is right there. I mean, that's about a $16,000 increase just alone for that. What that increase is, there's no added staff. We did not add any staff. That is 100% staying in the market, staying, you know, City of Manchester, Town of Bedford, all the surrounding towns, the people that have the same services that we provide, whether it's pools, summer camps, and grounds and maintenance. So that's the lion's share right there. I can go, the little budget highlight kind of gives you the areas that moved up or down. So I'll just go through that real quick. We have an increase, one of the other increases will be in employee development. So what we're doing in employee development, what we did this year, is Aaron actually became a certified lifeguard instructor. And the benefits of that helped us this summer. So we were able to, Derek Horn, you want to be a lifeguard? Yeah, I'm not certified. Okay, we're going to certify you for $225, okay? So it gave you more versatility to reach out and be able to certify people. So what we're proposing there is we're going to increase, hopefully we'll probably have to find at least 4 guards and certify those guards. So there's a $900 increase right there. The whole CPR first aid thing, you still have to pay Elliott Hospital, CMC, whoever your contract provider is, you still have to pay them for the cards and things like that. So there's still a fee there. So those are your increases there. Heating oil is actually going to go down a little bit. Electricity is going up quite a bit. And the reason that is I noticed, what I found is I increased electricity for 2023, but I probably messed up somewhere and never put that in the 2023 budget. So now we're seeing, you'll see year to date we're over in electricity. So I think this will rectify that right there. Propane's going up. Same gallons, using about the same amount of gallons. So that's going to go up a little bit. Gasoline is going up in price per gallon. I mean, we're up to, the fixed price is what, $3.14 right now for the 23-24 season. I added 200 gallons more to our average usage, so that's at $26.20. Diesel, same amount of usage, gallons I mean, again, $3.47 a gallon. So the price per gallon. Fleet maintenance, I just added a little bit. Equipment maintenance supplies, that was $18,000, so that's a big decrease. And the reason that's a decrease is that's when last year we bought the new commercial mower, and this year we have proposed a trailer and a trimmer. Got to get a trimmer every year. Need a trimmer every year. Park operation line, that's a slight increase, $3,900. And there's basically, the lion's share of that is portable toilets. We did away with United Site Service, who was the state bid, but they're horrible. Sorry, saying that on TV, probably shouldn't say that. Anyhow, We went to a new company, Drop One. Isn't that a great name for a company, Drop One? Beautiful. Anyhow, program, and that went up just a little bit. So that's basically the operation area. And then I'll do CIP if you want to dive into anything there.
Does anyone have any questions on those particular line items?
Got nothing. Nope.
So Rick, can I jump over here for a second?
Yeah,
To the
yeah.
actual
Yes,
budget
please.
pages?
Yep.
So on page 18, line 53,430, equipment and maintenance supplies.
Yep.
So that decrease is for what?
$11,625. No, that was for a mower last
Okay,
year.
thank
That's what I was saying.
Just trying to match the lines with this.
Oh, okay. I got you.
And then the parks operation increase,
Correct.
but the year-to-date is at 26,000.
Yep,
Do we anticipate that being?
absolutely.
Okay.
We still have, I mean, for us, like the whole program line, I mean, we're into the meat of what we...
Basketball?
Basketball, yeah. We're into the meat of that, so that's where you're gonna spend out your allocated money. Same thing in contract services. I mean, we still have about another $5,000 just to get through to the December. I mean, from now until December with officiating costs and things like that, so. And actually, I dropped that number a little bit, not much.
Okay, do you want to talk about, does anyone else have any questions on the budget page? I see you doing math, so I'll wait for you.
Well, I just, which we don't, you know, on this size of a budget, it's pretty easy to look, but the actual budget increase for Parks and Rec, it's more like a 7% increase or 7.6. Because you gotta take out, you gotta take into consideration that equipment that they bought, which was $11,000. So you gotta add that into,
That's really technical, holy cow. I like the bottom number, you sit there in your little box there and it adds it all up and says 6%.
yeah, it didn't count for the $11,000, 625.
All right, if there are no other questions on the line items, Rick, do you want to talk about the CIP project?
Yeah, so for 2024, as we all know, we have in there for the new pool, okay? At $4.1 billion. So I sat with Diane and Derek, and kudos to both these guys, I mean, they're amazing.
You mean Danielle?
What did I just say?
Diane, she's sitting there, I don't know anything about the pool.
Danielle. I should have said Danielle, that's how I remember it. Danielle. Anyway, Danielle. And they created a wonderful document, and I don't have it to show you. But the bottom line is, when you look at, when we're gonna go after the LWCF grant, and you look at the timeline of how that grant plays out, you apply for that grant in the spring. You don't get the monies until a year later in October. And you have all these processes that you have to follow in that system. You look at our own budget process, how we don't get approved for a budget until March, technically. And then you look at the bonding side of it all and how all that plays out. The bottom line is, what we suggest is for 2024, we put a request for $340,000. That $340,000 is going to be for a build and design blueprints and schematics of the pool. So we would put that forth for 2024. In 2025, we would go for the build out, and we would build that out in 2025.
When you're doing the special article, if I understood our conversation Wednesday night, you put that out as a special article saying that if that's approved, then that'll go ahead and next year, hopefully, we would come up with a plan for a pool. That's the,
Okay, so the
Thought.
4.1 is not for this year.
No, it's getting broken out, so 350 would be 24. 350,000.
So yes.
350,000.
So the $4.1 million is not going on a warrant article this year.
Correct.
Is it 350 or whatever?
350, don't,
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then what we would do is, we would utilize our, we would go to 2025.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And then the plan still for the paving at the sports complex is still going to come from impact fees?
Yeah, that's all 100% impact fees. It's not paving, it's
The construction?
Cutting down some-
Yeah.
widening out an area.
Sorry, when I see parking, I just assume there's paving involved. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Rick? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
All right.
Andy wants to know about the air conditioning, because he has to sit in that hot building. It's coming, it's coming.
The mini splits, yes. They're still on the list. So for the budget deliberations, so that concludes our budget deliberations. We have a special meeting on the schedule for Monday. Does the select board want to utilize that for presentation revisits? We're not.
Yes.
Okay, for what?
That's what you just said. I think we need to look at it. I'd like to know where we stand as far as our expenditures and where we have to, or I guess we could wait to do that, doesn't make a difference. When we find out what our new tax rate's gonna be and where our expenditures are gonna be for next year. I wanna know where we're gonna be, what our impact is on this budget is to the tax rate next year, or close to it.
So, on the first, if you go to tab 1,
Administration.
I prefer to focus on net required local tax effort. How much are we collecting in taxes? We can definitely change it to tax rate if that's the board's preference. But if you have the tax rate, which you have asked us to set here,
Right.
you have a tax effort of $17,588,409. And right behind tab 1, you have my budget overview.
Right.
That has an estimated, based on the town department's requests. You have a net required local tax effort of $21,349,000. So that is just short of $4 million increase of tax effort that would need to be done, which is a significant increase.
Exactly what I'm saying. We need to consider a significant increase. And I really think we need to hunker down a little bit and look at a few things. And then we have, did we get all the CIP stuff yet?
Each department, yes, that's included in the budget. Each department has touched on that. The only item that is not included at this point is you do have 2 requests for special articles. The capital reserve fund for the fire apparatus, as well as a new capital reserve fund for library. The only item that is not, only items that are not included, you have nothing for Crispin House or Main Street at this point, and you have 3 CBAs that are in as $1 placeholders right now.
Okay. So,
If you just want to approve it and say that's not, just a tentative, we could do that and say, we're going to have to come back and work
I mean,
at
I
it.
think we have to wait to see when we get to the CBAs. Like we've done in the past, we've pushed the initial budget forward and then had it come back before it gets recommended to the
Just
budget
as long as
committee.
everybody knows it's not cast in stone.
Well, I think at this point, you are preparing your budget to hand it over to the budget committee. I don't recall the exact date. I think we're trying to get that to them on November 6th. November 6th. And they would start deliberations the following week.
November 8th.
Oh, I'm sorry, November 8th. So,
I'm interested, would it be possible for us to do this year, I like this budget overview breakdown, the way that you did it, but would it be possible to do something that shows the total increase amount, like we've seen in all the other department heads do, like the total for staff, the total for utilities, the total, like the increase amounts, or the total cost? Let me show you, hold on.
yeah, I know what you mean, break it out to almost like a pie chart or...
Kind of, yeah. Because I think the increases, we know a lot of it's wages, we know insurance, utilities, the normal things that are really always kind of the big pushers.
Yes, we can definitely get that for the board. I think one thing we'll need to talk to department heads on exactly what are those. Some may be counting employee development as a personnel cost, others might be counting that as a operating cost. We'll just need to make sure that we have an understanding across the board of how everything's counted, but we can, it's pretty easy.
Does anyone
to do
have
that.
any thoughts on that? Because I feel like a huge chunk of that is not only personnel, but those other things we've seen across the board.
Jim's looking around, he's not
Does
sure.
anyone have any thoughts?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
If that's of interest to anybody, because if we're looking at areas to potentially make reductions, if that's the point that we get, I would like to see what buckets.
Anything that
increase our
simplifies
following.
things is okay in my book.
I don't want to create more work for Danielle and Derek if I'm the only one who wants to see that. That's what I'm asking.
When you see it all like this, for each and every department, it's hard to go through, to look at it and say, okay, and now if you can put it as a whole, maybe you can get a better idea. I don't know.
That was my thought process.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
There's got to be a way to sugar it down and simplify it. I had a question. I'm having trouble reading my hand scratching here. So we decided we're not going to use any fund balance, so that would set a preliminary tax rate of 1886. And what does that look like as far as a typical $400,000 property?
1886?
Yeah.
Second. So that is all four rates, municipal, county, local, and state would be $7,544.
Okay, thank you.
It's just the way it goes.
Is that something that's easy to pull, Danielle? To emulate like a wage-related cost, like overall, when we're talking about budget lines?
Yeah, we can pull the
Okay.
data from next year budget entry and just use the same categories across all departments.
Okay.
Like all part-time, full-time wages as one thing, like,
And so Derek, that 7544 is an increase of what? How much? No.
Percentage?
So you've got a different base, because that
Right, I
$400,000,
understand.
that $400,000 house
Right.
under 2023 assessment was closer to 260, 270 in 2022. I think the average is probably, the tax bill is gonna be about a 10% increase on average. There are going to be some that are higher than that, there's gonna be some that are lower.
Yeah.
We saw a much bigger increase in condominiums and manufactured homes.
Yeah.
We saw a smaller than average increase in commercial and industrial. So,
Just remember what he just said, manufactured homes, you got all those people down in the villages that aren't gonna be in the condos too. I mean, mine went from 135 up to 240,
Yeah.
243.
I get it.
But I knew that was coming, I mean, I understand it.
Danielle, do you think a week is enough time for you to put something together, a comparison for us? Okay. So,
I just want to understand exactly what information you're asking for.
I don't know is the answer to your question.
You got a pie chart, a specific pie chart here?
Correct. Every department had something around this that showed the increase, because I think what we're trying to express is that the wage and wage-related costs are a majority of our increases, as they are every year. We're also seeing a big increase in insurance and utilities, but I would just like to see some way that that's accumulative across the board. So when we talk about our overall tax base increase or tax rate increase, we can kind of look at those buckets and see if there's any way or any place where if we need to make impact, it would be the easiest place to do it.
And we're asking for it in dollars, not percentages, right?
We can, I was asking for it in percentages, but I mean, it tends to have,
The percentage increase on each percentage of increase?
not the increase, just the amount of the total, so what
The
we're
total, the
requesting for
whole.
2024. Does that, I want to make it not complicated for you guys.
No, it's pretty easy. We can
Okay.
dump it by object code and sort by object code and subtotal it by that and move stuff around. It's not that hard.
Okay. Just in a week, if that's possible, then we can take up that meeting on Monday, if everyone's okay with that,
I'm good with it.
to look at it again.
I don't want to rush through it, we're gonna have
Yeah.
some, we're gonna have some explaining to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anyone else have any requests, additional requests for Monday as far as the budget presentations from our department heads?
Just give us the stuff they need and
Okay, so we will meet on Monday then, next Monday, and move forward with the budget. If anyone has any additional questions they think of, please send them to Derek so that we can try to address them on Monday if needed. All right, moving on. So, new business, does anyone have any new business this evening? Do we have any new business?
When are we doing this? Not yet?
We're gonna talk about that in non-public.
Okay.
Okay.
Where are we now?
Old business, we have, did we put the Invest New Hampshire on the action matrix?
It is on the action matrix. You did have under old business, I provided you the draft print that was prepared on behalf of New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for their grant application. There was a request to bring this up under old business.
Yep. Take it back. Jim, this was your request, I believe, to have this put in the
Yeah.
packet tonight, so do you want to go ahead and talk about?
Yeah, it's kind of in conjunction with Andy's presentation
Sure.
before and Rod's, and I've been to a couple of their meetings, and it's become pressing to me that, you know how we all were like sandbagged into first finding out about this, and I'm afraid that if we don't keep an eye on the state and what's going on, we're going to get sandbagged again when the reports come out, whatever they say. And so my opinion is that we ought to have a committee, because we don't have time to do it, but something like the Bridge Committee, where they report to us, but they keep an eye on what's going on with what DES is doing, what the state is doing. We've got this, somebody's doing these renderings, and I don't know whether it's pie in the sky or what, but we don't know who's going to pay for anything here, and we don't know what, like Andy said, is there an option? Are there different options, what to do with the dam? What's going to happen? And there's just 1,000 questions and no answers. And I think if we put together a committee and there's tons of people, everybody's concerned about this, I'm afraid that we're going to end up at sometime next year with a fait accompli, and we don't know, we'll be running around trying to figure out how to,
What happened?
what happened, you know? And
So,
I think if we get knowledgeable people to keep an eye on this and ask the right questions, that's not likely to happen. And we can keep the public better informed if we are better informed ourselves. And so I think it behooves us to at a minimum, get the DES in here to update us, but I think the better, my opinion, the better solution is to have a committee to keep an eye on it. People to
So-
learn what's going on, to you know, and then keep an eye on it. The DES seems to be happy to come in and do presentations, see what's going on. Every time you look at this, more questions come up, and to have some people thinking about those questions and getting them answered as we go along.
So I guess my question would be, so we had discussed also sending another letter to the state. I know, Collis, you and I had talked about that, which we can talk about more. Maybe we can see if there, I don't know, Derek, did we get a timeline on the report? We just asked them to start the report. I don't remember.
The feasibility study?
Correct.
Yeah,
I can check with Corey Clark at the Dams Bureau to get an update on that.
Okay, so let's start there. I guess, Jim, my question to you, and I'll put it out openly, is that if I would need more clarification on what the committee would be tasked with, because if it is just to pay attention to things, I guess is what you're
Well,
suggesting?
I agree with you, it needs some thought, and I think there's plenty
So
of people.
yes, absolutely, and if there is a group of people advocating in other ways, I'd be happy to have that discussion. However, I am trying to be very conscious of staff time, and what I'm concerned with is that if we don't clarify what the roles and responsibilities of that committee would be, is that then it will turn into just pushback to, not pushback, but adding work to our staff for things that we might already have. So I just want to clarify.
No,
I don't
know-
by
I
any
knew-
means want to.
I was mindful of Derek and, you know, basically Derek and Danielle. I know they've got more than enough, so I think it won't be that hard to figure out what they should be doing, and who would be interested in doing. I mean, Andy, prime example, he'd be willing, I mean, he's following it himself. But I think things are happening all the time and are developing, and, you know, they don't have to meet all the time, they just, you know, I don't know, I think we should leave.
And we have to remember, it's not just Hadley Falls. I mean, that's the one that's staring us in the face, but we've also got Kelly Falls and Greg Falls, so, you know, who's tracking all this? And I think at the very least, we should have quarterly reports from DES. Where are we at now? What's next? What have you accomplished? What's at risk? What's the impact to us as a community for our waterways in general?
So why does a committee, that's a select board, have to do a committee? Why can't there be a citizens committee to do that? Is there no, does it give them any power, or, I mean,
Well,
they've asked, I mean, they tell you, you got any questions, reach out to us. I think the thing right now is we need to wait to hear from them what they're doing with that report that they're supposed to be doing. And I see over here, there was the planning now for the future village, and they want to come up with a capital reserve fund, and that's just one dam. We got
Yeah,
more dams.
yeah, we do.
And it should be, is it a dam committee, or is it a Hadley Falls Dam Committee? As we heard from Andy, he's worried about his property. I can tell you there's 60, 70 other people down on Namaski Lake that are worried about their property. So
And
we
equally
can't
many
just
on
form a
Glen Lake.
dam, we can't just form a committee worried about, and I'm not trying to pick, worrying about just these people up here. There has to, if you're gonna form a committee, you gotta get those
right,
people down there involved.
I agree with you, and it needs to be coordinated, and
Right.
there's mutual interests all the way down the river, so, that, you know.
And other communities have established waterways committees that look at, ad hoc waterway committees that look at the waterways in totality. So that,
That deal with the dams?
well, that's part of the waterways, yep,
No.
yeah. And I think we need to do something, because I think the people want to see that the select board is supporting this in at least some way. And I think that's important for people to know that, yeah, we support it, and here's how we support it, how we think we can support it. And there's a lot of that to be worked out, there's no question about it.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know if-
That's always the $10,000 with an ad hoc committee. What's the charter? What's the deliverables? What's the timeline?
So I think what we need to do is hear from Corey where they stand in this study for now.
I think that the select board as a whole also needs to clarify what they would like out of it. Because Collis, to your point, we have communicated everything we've received so far. So you're certainly not wrong in that, but what more could someone, that's what I'm getting at, is what else could be done in that regard, and what kind of, I'm very worried about staff time. I'm worried about the state component being brought in, again, because this is something we have no
Yeah.
control over. And I think we all know that we're all happy to advocate for what we can, but I'm just very cautious of starting a committee to start a committee.
Well, you say you don't know, we have no control of it. I'm not even sure that that's true, and that's the problem. I
What
don't
are
know
you
what
We can
unsure of?
control it for $1 if you wanna buy it.
No, but there's other ways of, if the dams go, what's gonna be left? And are we just gonna accept, okay, this is what, who's gonna pay for it, and all those kind of things? And then at the last minute, this is gonna be dropped on us, and,
Well, I think that's where you stand right now, because we need to talk to DES and find out how does this work, where's the money come from,
Yep.
things like that. And then, if there is, they say, okay, we're gonna pay for it, that's when I think you put a committee together and say, okay,
well,
what are you gonna pay for, and what's it gonna look like, and no, we don't like that. I don't think,
well, and I get,
we got two different things going on here. One is save the dam, another, what you just said, what's it gonna look like when it's gone.
Yep.
That's two different things.
yeah, I agree, and one of my, I was thinking when they came in, we can either just form a committee or have them come in and then listen to where they're at, and then we can evaluate whether
You
we
know,
need a
you might
committee.
get a lot better response now that there's been a change up there,
Oh, absolutely.
you know? You might get
Let's-
a lot better response.
Let's do that moving forward, seeing if we can coordinate another meeting
Okay.
for a status update. And also, just generally, but
Doesn't have
also
to be the whole
in,
group again, it could just be
no, we
Corey
could
and
do it,
somebody else
yeah.
coming in, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
just to update us.
Let's start with that.
Start, okay.
I would like to look through what was handed to us tonight. I would like everyone to think on those questions that we all just asked of what they would, the purpose and intent would be from a
I was
community
under the-
perspective.
I was under the impression that they were paying for it when the renovations when we were down there, when we were talking to them originally.
Paying for this plan, Peter, is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah.
Agreed. So let's,
But like you said, Jim, let's say, yeah, we're paying for this. Let's get them to say, yeah, we're paying for it. Is that
Well,
what
yeah, you're right.
And then you go from there, well, that's not what we want, you know?
Yeah, what kind of control are we gonna have?
Exactly, I
You
get
know,
it.
Yep.
I think it's just kind of malpractice to do nothing and wait for them to come at us.
Anything else?
all right, on the action matrix, the police station, any update? No? Okay. The village pedestrian bridge, any update?
Cost?
Um,
Not really.
no, moving forward.
Okay. The request for on-call stipends for the non-union DPW.
That's in the plan you gave us, wasn't it?
There was a discussion of that, yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's-
so it's still on hold.
Let me go back to the pedestrian bridge. We did hand out flyers during the Pumpkin Regatta. We handed out 60 of them, which is about 25% of what we printed up, which I consider to be pretty good for our first foray into educating the public on this. So I think that's a positive step forward, and looking to see how we can continue to move it forward through outreach and education.
Okay, great. The Invest Municipal Per Unit Grant. Derek, we're waiting for a couple more, seeing if the department has had any more solidified quotes on anything. Do you feel like that's in a pretty good place where we could make a
I think that's in a
decision?
pretty good place if you
Okay.
want to put it back on your agenda.
So on Monday, can we put that on the agenda to talk about the distribution of funds? Thank you. And the remote work policy?
I haven't had a chance to get to it, but yes.
Okay. So on Monday, if you're not able to get to it, can you give us the current again, just so we can keep that on the radar? Thank you.
But let me just add one other thing, just for people's interest. Yeah, we handed out the flyers for the pedestrian bridge, but it didn't take but minutes for people to quickly want to switch from talking about that to talking about the dam. So these things are so closely related and important to people that I think it's worth knowing that is a sentiment of a lot of the people that we interacted with over the pumpkin weekend. Anyways, just a little more FYI.
Nope, that's good feedback. Anything for LCHIP? We're still waiting on
Just waiting
grant
on
decision?
the-
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and at this time, we'll open it up for our final non-public of the evening. Is there anyone who wishes to speak at non-public comment? Public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Now I will take a
Make
motion.
a motion on the non-public under RSA 91-A:3, 2A compensation / promotion, and C adversely affecting reputation.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Mark. Any questions, comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this concludes our public portion of tonight's meeting.
Staying in here?
Yes.